Hello students, let me start with chapter 7, that is diversity in living organisms. Organisms are found in diverse life forms and there are millions of organisms in the world. Many of them are yet to be discovered and study need to be done and they have to be classified. Let us discuss a few criteria we take to classify these organisms. Basic criteria. First of all, on the basis of size. Organisms differ on the basis of size. There are microscopic bacteria to huge organisms such as the blue whale, which is 30 meters, and the redwood trees of California, which are over 100 meters tall. Next, let us take the case of lifespan. Organisms differ greatly on the basis of lifespan. Mosquitoes and insects, which have only a lifespan of few days, while certain pine trees, they live for thousands of years. Next, let us take color. There are colorless and transparent worms and other organisms, while there are also brightly colored birds, flowers and butterflies. Now, students, let us see what is the basis of evolution and who was the first person who studied this classification of organisms. It was Aristotle, the Greek scholar, who attempted to classify organisms. The criteria he took was habitat. So, let us take a simple example. Let us take water as the habitat, especially seawater. So, whales, then mollusks, squids, starfish, seahorse, different types of fishes, all live in seawater. Based on the habitat, if we take, all these organisms live in seawater or in water. But they all belong to different groups. So this method of classification based on habitat was not acceptable. Later on, many theories for classification came up. Let us see what is the definition for characteristic. Now, characteristic means ways or in fact are details of appearance or behavior. In other words, form and function. So based on certain characteristics, organisms were divided. Let us see what are these basic characteristics. First of all, whether an organism is a prokaryote or a eukaryote. What are these eukaryotic organisms? Eukaryotic organisms, they have a well-defined nucleus with a proper nuclear membrane. The cell organelles are membrane bound. The cells are larger in size and chromosomes are more than one in number. While these prokaryotic organisms, nucleus is not advanced. They do not have a well-defined nuclear membrane. Only a region called nucleoid made up of nucleic acids. The cell organelles are not membrane bound. They are smaller in size and chromosome is only one in number. Prokaryotes are usually unicellular, while eukaryotes are multicellular. So we can divide organisms on the basis of whether they are eukaryotes or prokaryotes. That's the first thing we can take. Second, on the basis of number of cells. If the organism has only one cell, it can be classified into unicellular, while if it has more than one cell, it comes under multicellular organisms. So that is the second criteria, whether the organism is unicellular or multicellular. Third is the mode of nutrition, whether the organism follows autotrophic mode of nutrition or heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So what is this autotrophic mode of nutrition? Preparing food by oneself. And the organisms which follow this mode are known as autotrophs. Examples are green plants and blue-green algae. And heterotrophs are those organisms which follow heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Now what is this heterotrophic mode of nutrition? Depending on other organisms for their nutritional needs. So we have seen 3 points. One is whether the organism is a eukaryote or a prokaryote. Second one, whether the organism is unicellular or multicellular. Third, whether the organism follows heterotrophic mode of nutrition or autotrophic mode of nutrition. That is the third point. Fourth one is body organization. That means body organization in plants from simple to complex. The most simple plants are belonging to Talophyta, that is algae, to the most complex plants, that is angiosperms, and that to dicots. So body organization from simple to complex in plants. That's the fourth point. Next is body organization in animals from simple to complex. Unicellular organisms, that is the monerans or protistans, to highly developed, that is mammals, especially human beings. So body organization in animals from simple to complex. So thus we have seen 5 points on the basis of which we can classify organisms. First one, whether eukaryote or prokaryote. Second, unicellular or multicellular. Third, that is mode of nutrition, heterotrophic or autotrophic. Fourth, body organization in plants, simple to complex. Fifth one, body organization in plants from simple to complex. So these are the 5 points on the basis of which we can classify organisms. Now let us see how this classification and evolution is linked. See, characteristics that came into existence earlier are likely to be more basic than the characteristics that have come into existence later. So the ones that formed first, those characteristics that formed first are simpler, while those characteristics that formed later are more complex. So with the passage of time, there is a change, or there is an evolution from simple to complex. Now most of the life forms that we see today have arisen. How did they arise? They have arisen by the accumulation of changes in the body design that allow the organism possessing them to survive better. Once again, how did these organisms arise? These organisms that are present in this day have arisen due to the accumulation of variations which have helped them to survive better. Now it was Charles Darwin who first described this idea of evolution in the year 1859 in his book, The Origin of Species. Now we will find that some groups of organisms, they have an ancient body design and they have not changed much. We will also find that there are other groups of organisms that have acquired their particular body design relatively recently. Those in the first group, we can call them as primitive or lower, while those in the second, we can call them advanced or higher organisms. Now, in reality, these terms are not quite correct since they do not properly relate to the differences. We will be learning more about this in the next year, that is in the chapter Evolution and Heredity. There we will be learning something very contradictory. Since there is a possibility that complexity in design will increase over evolutionary time, it may not be wrong to say the older organisms are simpler while younger organisms are more complex. But as I told you, the older organisms are more simpler and younger organisms are more complex. But this doesn't mean that the younger organisms that are more simpler are anyway better than the older organisms. About this, I need to tell you because bacteria, which are very primitive, they have a very simple body design, yet they can survive in very high temperature or in methanogenic conditions or even in saline water, which these complex organisms or relatively very younger evolved organisms cannot. So in no way this human beings especially who are considered as to be very evolved, we cannot say that we are better than the bacteria. No. Because they, though being simple, they have survived and they have a better survival than the more complex ones. Now let us see what is the meaning of biodiversity. Biodiversity means diversity of life forms. It is a word that we commonly use to refer the variety of life forms found in a particular area. That means all the plants, animals, microorganisms and also the human beings. All these together of a particular area are known as biodiversity. Now, let us see what do you mean by biodiversity hotspots. The warm and humid tropical regions in the earth, that is between Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, are rich in diversity of plants and animals. Now, why do you think they are rich in diversity, especially this area? Because the climate is very conducive, very good for the survival of a diverse forms of plants and animals. This region between the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, this region is known as region of megadiversity. This region is known as region of megadiversity. The biodiversity of the planet, more than half of it is concentrated in these regions. And which are the countries? Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Mexico, Zaire, Madagascar, Australia, China, India, Indonesia and Malaysia. These are the regions of mega diversity or biodiversity hotspots, because this region contains the maximum number of plants and these animals, maximum varieties, because the climate is very, very suitable for the growth of or survival of plants and animals. These regions are known as regions of mega diversity. With that, we conclude this particular session. Thank you.